welcome to Outdoor Classrooms, our community, and welcome to this incredible workshop called Cultivate Your Own Nature-Based Pedagogy that unlocks a learner-focused outdoor classroom. I'm thrilled that you're here and taking the time to join us. Thank you. So our time together is valuable, and I really want to make sure I packed in as much as I possibly could in this workshop. We're going to have a little bit of a welcome, and we're going to talk about just your childhood memories and how that can impact your own pedagogy. And we're going to ask a couple questions. How do children experience the world? Why nature connections in schools? And then we're really going to get into the meat of the workshop, which is talking about, and I've got them in steps, which is step one is we're going to be designing your outdoor space using the 4 types of gardens. Then step 2 is we're really going to infuse your own pedagogy, and we're talking about how we can cultivate that. And then we are going to unlock your outdoor classroom and combine your nature pedagogy with your outdoor classroom. So my hope is that in step 4 that you will be able to fill your toolbox with all sorts of resources that you can take on and get your kids outdoors, create your space, and really cultivate your own pedagogy. So welcome. So again, my name is Victoria Hackett. I'm the founder of outdoorclassrooms.com. It's a community, it's a platform, online platform with lots and lots of resources for educators and parents that want to spend more time outdoors cultivating an outdoor classroom. So a little bit about me. I also am the podcast host of Outdoor Classrooms. It's called the Outdoor Classrooms Podcast. And I also lead a community called the Circle Community. It's a membership community at Outdoor Classrooms. So a lot is happening and it's very, very exciting. So come and join us. So a little bit about me and my outdoor classroom story, if you haven't heard it. I was always an educator, have been always an educator, but was not necessarily went to school and for teaching outdoors and nature pedagogy and all of that. But it really came from when I became a parent, actually. And I've learned through the podcast that this is oftentimes our own children are the ones that are the catalysts that lead us into this journey. So yes, you can see the picture here on the left, which is this old desolate courtyard, which this is literally right next to the front door of the kids' school. And I just thought, there's must be a reason that and how could we transform this space into an outdoor classroom? And it truly was this experience and witnessing children being completely transform themselves in terms of their learning process in the outdoor space. And that led me to really researching more. And that's when I discovered the 4 types of gardens, which I will talk about a little bit later. What I want to start with is just to have you all take a little bit of time just to be inspired by your own childhood memories of playing outdoors. So as we go through this workshop, we're not necessarily together and we can't share your memories, but oftentimes it's just riding around the playground, riding around the neighborhood, just freely without adults around and spending that time just hours and hours and hours making forts in the woods or whatnot. So I want you to capture those memories throughout this workshop and really think about them as you think about cultivating your own nature pedagogy. So hold on to those and have that be kind of a foundation place. Then now I want you to think about how children today are experiencing the world. And I have been reading, actually our community and at Outdoor Classrooms is reading the book Balanced and Barefoot. We have a book club within our membership and we are reading Balanced and Barefoot. And wow, this should be required reading for all parents and all educators. It's absolutely incredible and really speaks to how children are spending their time in the world. And they're spending a lot of sedentary time on screens and whatnot. So this movement, I'm speaking to the choir, but this movement is so, so important. I wanted to just note that the importance. And as many of you know, probably that the statistics are off the charts. And that American children are spending 10 minutes a day of unstructured outdoor play. And they're spending 7 hours in front of the screen. So yes, this is so important, this work. So again, why nature connections in school? Kids are spending more time in school, and it just, I'm not going to read all this, but you all, just to create this foundation, but important not only to review this, but to also be able to articulate it in with your parents and community in your world, I guess. So really looking at all of this and getting to our why, and that is important also in terms of creating our own nature pedagogy. And this is one of my favorite quotes by Aaron Kenny. Children cannot bounce off the walls if we take the walls away. So let's start. So where do we begin? In terms of teaching outdoors, and the biggest place to begin is to kind of identify what specific blocks of teaching outdoors, and think about what you are already teaching and how you can enhance it by taking it outdoors. And then ask yourself the question, if you're at that space, what's stopping you? What's stopping you? Maybe you're already doing it. So we're all at different phases of teaching outdoors, and we'll talk about that. But really, if you are at the beginning, thinking about what you are already teaching and how can you already take that outdoors. And then the biggest question, and I want you to be thinking about this throughout the workshop as well, is identify your why for teaching outdoors. What is that? How will you stay motivated to teach outdoors? So this is just a slide from a school that I was working with, and throughout the seasons. So understanding the framework, and this is the framework that we base a lot of my work here at outdoorclassrooms.com, and it's based on the 5 phases of teaching outdoors. And this came about via COVID, actually, when I was working with many different schools, and I realized that all of us educators are at different phases of teaching outdoors. Some were in phase 1, which is infrastructure, or just some were having trouble just getting outdoors. Some were already teaching, ready to dive into the meat of it all, which is the teaching and the learning outdoors. And then weather. How can we teach outdoors throughout all weather and be prepared for that? And then also sustaining all of this work that we've created. So I'm not going to get into the meat of all of this in this particular workshop, but I just want you again to have this foundation for our work together. We are going to be looking at a few of these, the first 3. So again, step 1 is phase 1, which is designing a learner-focused outdoor classroom, and was in our title. And the way that we're going to do this is through the 4 types of gardens. As I said in my intro, when we started creating the outdoor classroom at my children's elementary school, this was like 20 years ago. They're graduated from college at this point. They were in kindergarten and preschool. And since then, I have started researching all these different types of gardens, and I found that they were 4 types of different camps of people. So let's just talk about those camps of people. But with that, we want to set the stage with infrastructure, and the infrastructure meaning that's what do you have outside? What is already out there? What trees do you have? What things do you need? What things do you need for the kids to sit on? So what do you need to teach outdoors? And so with that, I've created 4 different types of gardens. And this is a really fun and interesting way to look at your landscape, your outdoor space, your outdoor classroom in such a way that it becomes a space where we have several learning gardens. And so think of these 4 types of gardens as learning and teaching gardens. And the first one is the gardens that feed. And this is obviously such an abundant opportunity to grow food in abundance and really teach children where food is coming from. But the whole process of teaching in the gardens that feed is, and then adding cooking to that piece is enormous. So we've got the gardens that feed, learning how to grow food, and this is just some of the gardens in the Secret Gardens outdoor classroom here in Beverly, Mass. The next one is Gardens for Art and Beauty. And this is twofold. One is that we are planting plants that are just beautiful. And we are also adding elements in our outdoor classroom that children can create art and beauty. So this is, again, in the Secret Gardens outdoor classroom, and a little friend painting on our makeshift easel, which this is just a shower curtain. So simple, so easy, but it allows you to bring art and beauty into your outdoor classroom. So then the next one is my favorite. So they're all my favorites, but this one especially is so much fun to work with. Gardens as outdoor learning stations. So again, when I was doing my research, there was one camp of people that just focused on food. There was one camp of people that just focused on okay, I just want to make my garden beautiful. There was another camp of people with the folks that wanted to create mud kitchens and water walls and add boats and all sorts of things to their space. This one has two slides because there's so many different options. This is our mud kitchen. This is our music wall. This is our fishing bridge. We have little fish that are here, and kids with their fishing rods, magnet fishing rods, collect their fish. And there's so many opportunities for these type of gardens. And the final one is the gardens that attract wildlife. And again, this was another camp of people that were just focused on attracting wildlife through maybe creating pollinator gardens. So this is another opportunity to certify your outdoor classroom through the National Wildlife Federation. It walks you through all the different things that you need to do that. So with the 4 types of garden, it allows you to really create spaces in your outdoor classroom that will enhance learning, truly. And at the Secret Gardens outdoor classroom, I run nature programs, and we have kids, we do our little structure, and then kids go off and they can float between all these different outdoor classrooms. And different activities can be, I call them sort of invitations for learning within the gardens. So now we have the gardens. You've set up your space, you know the possibilities. There's a structure to that, or a framework. So you've got the 4 types of gardens. Now I want to introduce you to phase 2. Phase 2 is getting outdoors in the 5 phases of teaching outdoors. But before getting outdoors, this is where I want to plug in the cultivating your own pedagogy. And again, this also speaks to your why. And so before we go into phase 3, which is teaching and learning outdoors, we really want to understand our own pedagogical approaches to teaching and learning. So what is that? How can we create your own pedagogy? Don't we have to follow someone else's? I love to create. I love to create my own methods of madness, so to speak. And oftentimes I'll do that in this approach. And sometimes I've done it with theorists, whether it be Montessori or Waldorf or Reggio. I don't necessarily like to just do one. I like to kind of mix it up. So I want you to think about it in that regard as I'm introducing these 5 pedagogical approaches. So the first, that's the playing with a mindset, playing with a learning mindset, and really inviting your own inner child into this process and thinking, I was going to have a slide on just a ice cream sundae, but I kind of want you to think about it as an ice cream sundae. We have our 4 types of gardens, and then we have these 5 pedagogical approaches, but I also want you to invite that playful learning part of you to come out during this process. and not be so, it has to be a certain way. It's taking it outside and having fun with it. So this first one is the constructivist pedagogy. And this is where we are encouraging students to construct their own knowledge through experiences and activities. So like I said, in the 4 types of gardens, I set out invitations for learning. So this might be tapping into this approach if I'm inviting them to construct their own knowledge. Subject, so they're giving them hands-on lessons and self-guided learning. So it's there. I'm inviting them to construct whatever they want to think about it, how they want to think about it, and constructing their own knowledge through experiences. So we want to create invitations and create experiences and activities. Not necessarily it has to be done this way, but it's here. Come and go as you please. And so that's just a delightful way to just, again, this is a great opportunity to invite loose parts. And again, I'm probably speaking to the choir about loose parts and all the different things that you can do with them, sticks and stones and pine cones and all sorts of things that you can just have out. And again, this is a perfect opportunity to put things like this in the mud kitchen, or we have a makerspace garden to put different loose parts where they can construct and learn. It can be big loose parts, it can be small loose parts. So it doesn't have, it could be all different things. That's the beauty of it all. So is that going to be something that you're going to add to your pedagogy? So as we go through this, thinking about taking notes, write down, I really like that piece. What piece? How can you apply that to your own pedagogy? The second one is collaborative pedagogy. And this is best when your children are learning in small groups. So they could be young children, they can be older children. So it's different than having you sit there and say, okay, this is the way it is, and we're going to solve this problem. It's really when you might suggest a problem, and this is great with older kids, and to see if they can problem solve themselves out of it. So this is when we step aside and let the groups self-direct and their own learning process. So this is collaborative. And again, with the younger, even if they're collaborative and we're wanting them to collaborate on some shape or form in the mud kitchen or in the makerspace garden, or in the makerspace garden, we have pulley systems where they can put something in a bucket and create a pulley. All of that is creating things in your outdoor space that invite collaboration. So again, thinking about your outdoor space, what can you put in your outdoor space that enhances this collaborative pedagogy? And then knowing that you want to incorporate that into your own pedagogy. It's like painting that picture and that mural, or creating that ice cream sundae. How much of that do you want in your own pedagogy? So again, here's some inspiration in terms of kids just adding a log that they are going to collaborate and they can even be collaborating in terms of coming up with a game or just in their play. So giving them the time, I read somewhere, I think it was in the Balanced and Barefoot book, the time it takes for children to get prepared for play takes about 20 minutes. And so in that 20 minutes, it's pretty much time to go back inside. So they're not even getting the time that it takes, that research is telling us that it takes to get to the play. And play is collaborative. So allowing children the time where they can get to collaborative play is important. And that could be part of your pedagogy. So we are going to go to the third one, which is integrative. This is where we connect concepts to real world experiences, and kids are learning soft skills like communication and critical thinking. So it's integrating? How can we, and it's as simple as, could they help each other climb up a rock? What's the problem solving that's going to go into creating a hut or a home for an animal? And how can they transfer these skills? Maybe we're giving them a project. How can they transfer these skills into real world? They are in the real world, but into outside of your outdoor classroom. So really thinking about, those questions. What questions can we ask that make it an integrative uh, activity? The fourth one is reflective, and this is more on us than it is on the kids, but you can incorporate the kids into this process, which is the reflective pedagogy is where when we take a step back and we're reflecting on our lessons and our curriculum and how we can improve them for future iterations. So we are, even in the changing of the seasons, I love doing this. Even I'm doing it now as I preparing for my summer season. I'm really going through the outdoor classroom and kind of weeding it out. What's working? What can I put in that's new and fresh? What's exciting? We're going to have a summer session, and at the end of the summer session, we're going to have an art show. I can't wait. So exciting. But I had an art show last year. How can I reflect on the art show last year and make this year's even bigger and better? It doesn't necessarily have to be bigger, but interesting. I'm already thinking last year's wasn't very interactive. So I'm already thinking, how can I engage the children in my art show this year and make it more interactive? We have a lot of discussions about art shows in our circle membership. So that's a wonderful where I'm finding my inspiration for the art show. So reflective pedagogy. And this is another thing that's also wonderful to do with other people, where you can reflect. And this is, again, what we do in our circle community, where we have folks from all over the country that are just reflecting, like, oh, I tried this didn't work, and talking it out so we can make it better the next time. And just thinking, peaceful, meditating about it. I love this picture. Taking the time and not just doing the same thing over and over and over, but really taking time to reflect and on yourself. Are you rushing? Where are you at in terms of your teaching practice? So then we have our final one, which is inquiry-based learning. And this is amazing. You can just do your whole pedagogy on inquiry-based learning because it's it's the time that we are encouraging students to ask questions. It's the time where we are investigating real world problems. But what I love so much about this inquiry-based learning pedagogy is it's based on that idea that students should be encouraged to think about how to think rather than what to think. So if we can get the kids and children to learn how to think, the what to think will come later. Their curiosity and their wonder and all of that will come, and they'll be excited. Then they get to decide what to think. So it's an interesting concept to think about. I could do a whole workshop just on that. So it's the who, it's the what, it's the wow, and the when and the why. So really getting ourselves excited about learning and asking those questions. And the best part is that we can do that all outside. We can do that all outside and have such an incredible landscape to do it in. All right, so that's the 5 pedagogical approaches to teaching and learning, which is constructivist, collaborative, integrative, reflective, and inquiry-based learning. So again, you can have all 5. You can have a little more of one than another. You can, there's no rhyme or reason. That's the beauty of this in terms of creating your own pedagogical approach. And it's the same with using the 4 types of gardens. You may have a really stellar gardens that feed, this amazing gardens that feed, or you may not. Some don't even have that piece because they feel, oh, well, I don't have a summer program. But here at Outdoor Classrooms, we showcase that you can actually garden through all the seasons and have harvests. So that those are those two pieces. So we're going to move on to step three, which is phase three, which is teaching and learning outdoors. So this is where we're going to be combining your nature-based pedagogy and your learner-focused outdoor classroom. We're going to kind of mush them together and create, it's so exciting to pull this all together. So what is it that can inspire us? And going back to that question of what is your why? What is going to keep you motivated in doing all this? So this is where we want to apply our nature pedagogy into our outdoor playful learning invitations. And probably the biggest and most important thing is to have a gathering space like you do in your indoor classroom, in your outdoor classroom. This was a beautiful hike we took in Binghamton, New York. I was with my son. We were dropping our daughter off to her new job after she graduated from college. So I took this great walk and found this incredible nature sanctuary, and which they obviously use for educational purposes. And the first thing I saw was a gathering space. And this is what I want to share with all of you, how important it is to have a gathering space where we can share before going off and exploring. And the focus being that if we can focus on developing learning journeys that encourage not only our children, but also our families to take throughout childhood. And that goes into that inquiry-based learning pedagogy, really pulling into that pedagogy. So really understanding those pedagogies and now creating our own and combining that with our outdoor classroom. So taking, and some of the things, these are going to be seeds of inspiration that you can add to your outdoor spaces. Designing outdoor music walks is an option. I think this was a walk that was done tuning into nature, which I absolutely love. This, I think, was done in Vermont, and just exciting to see what the possibilities are and to imagine that these are all adults with the musical instruments. But imagine if you had kids placed throughout your wooded area. If you have a wooded area, you don't necessarily have to have it in the woods. It can be done in your outdoor space anywhere, but it could be a musical walk. And is music a part of your pedagogy? Do you have a pond in your outdoor space? And even if you don't have a pond, can you create a water space where you can have children explore a pond habitat? And so this book to look closely is, if you haven't read it, it's fabulous. It's Lori Rubin really took her class and documented the science and literacy in the pond that was near her classroom, and very, very exciting. So lots of different possibilities here. Adding poetry and reading and literacy outdoors is, I think in my own pedagogy, that it's a must. And if you have not read Literacy Moves Outdoors, by Valerie Bang Jensen. It's fantastic. It's really a step-by-step process on all the different things that you can do to move literacy outdoors. Um, just highlighting different elements, adding a word garden. It does not have to be this fancy. Adding different signs in your outdoor space. If you have been around outdoor classrooms for any length of time, you know that I'm very, very big on creating signage. And I actually learned this from Valerie, and just in terms of, imagine walking into an outdoor space, one without signs, that's just an outdoor space, and then imagine re-walking into that space with signs and what the difference would be. The signs tell a story. Like, this is a pond story walk from the hike, but it could just be signs that say what the stations are, the art garden or the mud kitchen, or we have a all different the fishing bridge. So whatever the music wall, whatever it is, it tells a story, lets you know, even if kids can't, I work with very, very young children, they can't necessarily understand the word, but there you can draw a picture or something with that sign. All of that adds literacy. All of it adds literacy. There's so many different things. So what we also want to do is we want to create teaching routines, where our opportunities can be actioned. And this is really creating that growth mindset. So we can do that in our outdoor classroom. We can do that off our grounds and beyond. So many different possibilities, but that should be a part of your pedagogy, is the routines that you create. So what I want you to do now is I want you to brainstorm 40 ways, 50 if you really want to get into it, of how to teach outdoors in the next 2 months. I want you to adopt imperfect action, and I want you to adopt resourcefulness. What does that mean? That means that I want you to find a community, whether it's our community or your own community. I want you to find people that are doing like-minded people that are doing similar things that you are, or you can find an accountability partner that's going to hold you accountable for getting outside every day, trying something new. What I love to do in my outdoor classroom is before my children come, for each time that they come, I want to have something new and different and fresh in my outdoor space. Isn't that fun? I just love that, because we as educators, because we're doing so much, we can sort of get stuck in the routine of doing the same thing over and over and over. What keeps it fresh is the newness, something new and fresh, a new activity, a new invitation for learning, whatever that may be. So I can sit here and say, oh, try this activity, try this activity. There's a million of activities out there. We have a community that we share our activities. But what I wanted to do today was to give you the framework. So we have our 4 types of gardens that feed. So that's growing food in raised garden beds. And we teach how to do that. Gardens that attract wildlife. And that's where we can create pollinator gardens in our outdoor classrooms that attract butterflies and all birds and all sorts of wonderful wildlife that can come into our space, but also learn about why pollinator gardens and native plants are so important. So that's 2. Then gardens for art and beauty. And that we want to create beautiful spaces that we enjoy being in. And that can tap into journal writing outdoors. That can tap into all sorts of wonderful pieces of creating stages where children are performing outdoors. And again, you can get a lot of ideas from the Outdoor Classrooms podcast, where a lot of folks are sharing their outdoor classrooms tour and talks. Again, the 4th one is outdoor learning stations, gardens as outdoor learning stations. And those are the mud kitchens and the water walls and the art gardens. And so there's so much to add to our outdoor spaces. And then you get into the pedagogy, knowing what the 5 pedagogical approaches are, and really creating your own and combining that with your outdoor classroom. And we went through a couple really fun activities. But the idea here is now to be resourceful. We really want to tap into filling up your toolbox with all different nature-based activities, seeds of inspiration. You can see behind me my bookshelf and all the different resources that we can tap into. That core. So one of the things that you can do, I think I have a slide here. And do I have a slide here? Yes, no. So yes, enhancing your vision with our resources. So we have lots and lots of resources for books and what teachers are sharing, building your relationship with your campus. What does that mean? Just walking around the campus, feeling where you're at as an individual. What I would love to share also is our free book list. It's a PDF. If you go to our website, which is www.outdoor-classrooms.com, you scroll down on the home page and you will see this here, and you can get the free Outdoor Classrooms library of nature-based children's books. This is all sectioned out into the 4 types of gardens. So I am a big proponent of using literacy and nature-based children's books to inspire our teaching and learning outdoors. And these are the books. These are the favorite books that I pulled from many, many different people, and I still have to add more, but grab it now and subscribe. You'll get a weekly newsletter as well with that, and of more ideas. Ideas, seeds of inspiration. So like I said before, we have the Outdoor Classrooms podcast that I am the host. I put out 2 podcasts a week. On Tuesdays, I'm usually interviewing somebody. We have who do we have? We have Balanced and Barefoot author Angela Hanscom coming to the podcast, and also she is going to be a guest in one of our Circle membership roundtables Q&A session. And so we have the podcast is free. That comes out twice weekly. You can find the podcast on any platform, Apple, Google, Spotify, or you can go to my website and you can grab it there and listen there. Please leave a review. Would love to hear what you think about it, and that will just keep us going. If you do not want to go it alone, I recommend joining our community of like-minded educators. We have a community of educators all over the country. We come together for 2 roundtables, live master classes, and would love to have you join us. So just go to Outdoor Classrooms and get more information about that. So your small changes add up. So let's do the math. The math being that there are 3.5 million pre-K to 12 teachers across the US, plus that are all making small changes to teach outdoors. That equals 50 million students' brains waking up. Imagine that, 50 million. That's if we all are making these small changes to teach outdoors. That's my vision. That's the dream. So what 81 million primary and secondary teachers worldwide, all making small changes to teach outdoors, is 1.354 billion students getting outdoors. To me, that's a revolution. So let's all continue doing what we're doing, making these small changes, spending a little bit more time outdoors, transforming our outdoor spaces, really looking inside of ourselves and asking, what pedagogy? What's my own environmental teaching outdoors pedagogy? What is that? What do I want to mix and match? What do I want my outdoor space to look like? How can I create that? If you want to do it with a community, come join us at Outdoor Classrooms. We would love to have you. If you have any questions about anything, about the membership, about the podcast, about this workshop, please email me at victoria@outdoor-classrooms.com. I would love to hear about your story. If you would like to be on the podcast, I'm always looking for folks. One of the reasons why I started the podcast was because I want to elevate you and tell our story, tell your outdoor classroom story. So if you're interested in sharing your story, come on over, shoot me an email, drop me a line, and I will let's meet and greet. And that's the way we do it. So we basically, I set up a meet and greet call, and we learn about each other. So that's what it's all about. We are stronger together. Again, thank you so much for listening, coming to this conference, joining this revolution. I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon. Bye.